Carlo?
Yeah.
Yes. So Carla's looking more likely than Cam. When she's here, I think she just got here, so she's gonna get with the performance team, and then see if we can give it a go pregame and take it from there.
But you think it sounds like you think there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
A likelihood?
More likely than Cam. Yeah.
Alex, you had a couple games, or 3 games so far, under your belt. I guess, what is something that you've been able to learn about yourself as a head coach in that period of time?
Yeah, I think really interesting question. I think every game trying to be really intentional, continuing to kind of do a self-analysis and keep looking at what I have to get better at. So even just a small thing, we've been like miking up every time out, and I've had the chance to go back and listen to the feedback and, looking at things like, am I saying too much? Are we specific enough? Are we keeping it to like 2 key themes versus overloading them with lots of different messaging points and then going out and nothing transfers? So I think just as a whole staff, being really intentional about all of us, from myself as the head coach to our assistants to our performance team, like this continuous improvement evaluation. So yeah, really, really enjoying, loving the role and loving the feeling of continuous growth and development too.
When there are multiple things for the team to be working on, say they're just not executing the myriad of things you had planned, how do you get them to execute all those things without overloading them?
Yeah, so really we're trying to be very focused on what do we feel is going to be the most important things that are going to show up the most in the game. So I think after those 2 New York games, we had a bunch of ideas for what we wanted to work on in practice, but then we've got to look at who are we playing for this next stretch of games, and then we're looking at similarities, like maybe we see more teams are using a particular pick and roll cover than another team. So something that needed work after New York, we might shelve that for when we have future practices. So I think trying to just be very strategic with what gets practiced and how much time we're putting on things. So yeah, it's always a fun process, just kind of putting that practice plan together.
What challenges does a player like BG present, given how slightly smaller this team is in the front court?
Yeah, so I think that's really the nail on the head. I think one of the keys for tonight will be the rebounding battle and really making sure we do a great job limiting them from second chance opportunities, but then at the same time, they've been posting, playing through their bigs more last few games. So I think it's really important that we're ready for that in terms of neutralizing those post-up threats, extending catches, not letting them get deep catches right underneath the rim. So that's going to be a team effort from everyone, not just our bigs, but then it's going to start with our guards in terms of the best deterrent is always more ball pressure. So doing whatever we can today to negate the impact of their bigs.
Alex, with the team is doing this stuff tonight, honoring like the original team. Have you gotten to, over the last month or so, have you gotten to spend much time with any of the original Fire players, or like learn much about kind of the original history of it?
We actually had Dennis Nygaard here yesterday at practice, which was great. So I think it's something, and we spoke about it. Just I think it's so important to do something like tonight where we honor those who came before us, and it's all part of the culture that we're trying to build here. And I loved what Jackie said. It was about just the name and the team name, and how it was so important that we were called the Portland Fire so that we honor those who came before us and we actually build on what the original team did. So I think we are going to be really intentional getting more opportunities for our former players to actually come and speak to our current group of players and talk about what it means to put on that jersey, because we actually had our culture and values talk, interactive talk. It was just yesterday where we basically spent 20 minutes as a group defining what it means to put on the jersey and what our values are this year, with the players picking 2 values. And I think even things like that and doing tonight and having our players come through as much as possible, it's a huge part of building this culture that we envision.
What were some of the values that the players picked out?
So actually what happened is what I did is I gave each player was in a group of 3, and then we gave them basically 10 minutes to identify 3 words that really resonated with them based on a lot of things that we've seen that we've been emphasizing as a group since preseason. or things that haven't come up yet. And what's going to happen is we're forming a leadership council, more details on that coming soon, and then the first 3 players in the leadership council will pick the values. So it was really important, Vanya and I spoke about this at length. We didn't want to just have these, culture is often a buzzword, and you end up with these very wishy-washy statements or just these slogans put up on the wall which mean nothing, and that's not what this means to us. And it was actually really cool, Sean, because we saw a lot of players were putting things like persistence, grit, resilience, which we've really been emphasizing as a group. So I'm excited to see what they pick as the final 2 values.
To your point about putting things on the wall, there's been a few different people individually somewhat labeling you the reverse Ted Lasso in terms of just your communication style and just kind of who you are. Do you like that? Have you heard that? What do you feel about that?
So I can only say I've only watched like 3 episodes of Ted Lasso, and that was a while ago. So, but what I can say is I think the culture is very important to us, and it's one of many things where we're trying to look at how can we be really effective with how we actually approach the offense, defense, and the tactical side, the principles of play. Then how can we be really good at player development? And then I think the culture part is another branch to that. So I think it's just synonymous with a lot of these things. And I also think if you do create the right environment for the group where staff, players can flourish, I think it naturally makes everything else better. So yeah, that would be my answer to that.
No believe to slap on the top of the locker.
We won't be doing that.
Alex, in the second Liberty game on Thursday, there was moments where, you could tell that Carla was missing from the offense. She was really good in that first Liberty game at creating moments, attacking the rim or dishing the ball out, drawing fouls. And in the second game, there was a lot of moments where it was very clear that her presence was missing from the team. Have you made any? Obviously, there hasn't been that much time, but have you made any concerted efforts to kind of expand the offense beyond Carla, knowing that she's not, she might be in all the games, but she can't play every second of every game?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's an interesting question, and what we saw in that first Liberty game was the full kind of power of the offense on display, with Carla just being able to make use of all the spacing we're trying to create with our cutting and our off-ball principles in terms of just how intentional we are with our shapes and pick and rolls so that we can unlock the floor for her. And I think I don't want to go away from that, and it's more how can we help our other guards really embrace getting into the paint and finding others and making everyone else better. So it's more a case of doubling down on our offensive identity as opposed to going away from it, but also we do have to have some adjustments ready just in case things aren't working out. And that's what we'll see tonight in terms of if we aren't able to create advantages and get great shots, then how can we use other offensive actions that we emphasize in the offense to find success?